Here we go. Here we go. This is it, the debut episode of The Business of. I am going to be covering some interesting topics each and every week, and we look at the business side of what is happening in the world, not just the fun side. This week, the debut episode, we are talking about fundraising. We've all done charity streams. We've all participated in them. We've even had people come to the door. We've got those letters in the mail. Maybe you've even been not attacked. You've been stopped on the street and asked to donate to your favorite charity. So this week we're going to talk about that. And I have with me two of the world's leading experts. First, we have, and I can see them off screen laughing their heads off when I call them the world's leading expert. First, we have Anne, in no particular order, maybe in alphabetical order. No particular order. Anne Rosenfield and Mr. James Martin, two of the world's leading experts in fundraising. Both of these I have known for many, many, many years and are friends of the channel and have both been in other streams that I have done. Both are friends. Some of you watching may actually know of them or know them personally. So Jim, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why are you one of the world's leading experts on fundraising?
Well, let's deal with reality first. I've been a fundraiser for just over 25 years. I celebrated a quarter century as a fundraiser last September. I got into fundraising because I couldn't figure out what else to do. And someone said, hey, why don't you try fundraising? And I thought, why not? Why not?
Is that not how everybody got into it 25 years ago?
Yes. Once upon a time.
That is exactly how everybody got into it.
You should try fundraising because nobody knew anything about it. So it was easy to get in then. So I've worked for food banks. I've worked for a women's shelter, large organizations, small organizations, mostly local. And I like doing the stuff that irritates people, sending out the mail, sending the email, asking people to call.
Email's new. You weren't doing that 25 years ago.
No, you're right. You're right. I think we were still at ABCD mail back then. Yeah. And currently I work in the lovely, thriving metropolis of Burlington at Halton. Oh my gosh.
The Halton Learning Foundation in Burlington, Ontario, Canada, for our international folks. I see my friend Crow Resin is in the is watching from the California. So he's watching from California. So there you go.
I've seen him on your gaming channel.
That is correct. I do game with my good friend Crow Resin. Miss Rosenfield, how about you? You've been doing this only a couple of years.
Longer than Jim. And I've worked, actually Jim and I overlap, we both worked at one point for the AIDS Committee of Toronto, but not at the same time, unfortunately. I've worked for university. I've worked for, frontline social service charities. I've, volunteered very actively in international LGBTQ, human rights. And I currently work for a synagogue here in Toronto.
Excellent. Okay, so this is the business of fundraising. And as I said in my quick little intro, everyone knows a little bit about fundraising. They've donated to, they've donated at work. They've been harassed by coworkers to buy those yummy little chocolate-covered almonds, Girl Guide cookies. But that's the only side of it we know. They've also probably watched or participated in charity streams. We're going to talk about that later. But Jim, why don't you just give us a quick, 101. What is fundraising? Just, for my friend Crow Resin, who's watching here, who, has a real job and gaming is not his career, just has a real job. What is fundraising? How would you describe it to the layman?
Job? Can I send
apparently.
Can I send him an email asking
for
funds?
Sure.
So the simple thing is it's right in the term. Fundraising is the art and science of asking folks to support an organization that they probably won't use. People in the fundraising profession, as three of us are, we know it's more than that. It's about the relationships. It's about choosing the right methods. It's about choosing the right time. It's about finding the right message. And so it's so much more than just asking for financial support. It's about relationship management. It's about being technology managers in a lot of cases, and understanding where the trends are, why people give, and how they're most likely to give.
But I'm
right?
sorry, I'm going to like totally interrupt what y'all are going to do all evening. But fortunately, these guys know me, so welcome to how annoying I can be, new people. I think there's an important difference though between fundraising and philanthropy, because as an example, I can go to a garage sale and I can give someone $20, and maybe that garage sale is going to support Jim's charity, which does great work. And I'm going to give them $20 for, a bunch of Beatle albums that they're selling. Or I can go online and make an online donation to Jim's charity for $20. And for that, I will get a tax receipt and a warm thank you, but no Beatles albums. And my point is that the first one is fundraising and the second one is philanthropy. And when people think about fundraising, they often think that fundraising and philanthropy are the same thing, and they're not. So when you're looking at how much a charity spends on fundraising, you have to bear in mind if that charity is running a business, or that charity is you're running a lottery or something, things that are expensive, but that's fundraising, but it's not philanthropy. And I think that's an important difference, which I think will help people think more clearly when they're trying to figure out what charity to support.
Excellent point. And one of them, I think, involves more planning and more thinking and less reacting. And I see you shaking. So you would agree with that, Anne? Is that okay?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, I think, it can be the case. Look, I think there is reacting in philanthropy too. I hear that someone's died. That's pretty much an automatic donation to the charity of their choice. That's a reactive gift. But it's more of a philanthropic gift, as opposed to, if I give the $20 for that, as opposed to, as I say, the $20 for the Beatles albums. But from our perspective on the fundraising side, it's still $20 in our pockets.
And what would you categorize when they ask me at the grocery store if I want to top up my donation to the local hospital, the local children's, the local whatever? Where would that fall under?
I think that's fun. Well, that's an interesting question. You're not really getting anything for it. So I think it falls a little bit more on the philanthropy side, right? They're saying, hey, will you top up and we'll give you... I mean, you don't really get anything for it. So I'd say that's a little bit more on the philanthropy side.
Okay.
But if they're saying, I don't think there's a lot of this, but there's a store near me who tremendously benefited from the hospital for sick children. It's the hardware store right down the street. And they have a donation up. Sorry, you would think that I would have turned off my phone, but you'd be wrong. They bulk buy candy bars, and you can buy a candy bar and they just put the money straight into the sick kids jar. To me, that's fundraising, not for me as the person, because I give them $1, they give me a candy bar, which is actually a bargain. For me, that's fundraising. I think for them, that's philanthropy.
Cool. Jim's reaching to turn off his phone.
No, I'm reaching to corral a child out of the camera. Almost as much fun.
Children are welcome on the stream. My child often comes on the stream, but on my shows usually to make fun of me, though.
Well, it's your show. I don't know that you want to see.
If one of Anne's children wants to come on the show,
Okay.
One of her children has a bigger draw than me, so sure, he can come on the show if he.
Hard to believe.
And I realize I'm using the wrong pronoun, so I apologize.
No, you are using the right pronoun. He is a he.
Oh,
but
okay.
The business of drag is actually an interesting. That could be a
future show. That could be a future show. Okay, so we've talked a little about what fundraising is. Now, you two are fundraisers. What is that? Like, what is that? Like, what do you do? You just run around and ask people for money? Are you the people, do you hit me up on the street when I'm outside the museum and the art gallery, or those people that come banging on the door? Are they the same thing? Is that you, or what exactly is your job, Anne?
I would say they are part of fundraising. Absolutely. They're part of that whole set of things that we do. I think the folks who, the company who's manufacturing those chocolate almonds in those boxes, they're in the business of fundraising, right? Because you're getting a service. The people who are knocking on your door or approaching you outside the museum, that we may not like how they do what they do, but they're trying to talk to you about philanthropy, about making a philanthropic gift. And I do that, if not every day, almost every day. I generally do that with people who are already connected to my organization. Part of our job, which Jim talked about earlier, is if we're doing our jobs well, we're trying to be accountable to you as a donor about what's the impact of your gift, about what worked well with your gift. We're trying to be honest about maybe what didn't work so well with your gift. Like, if we're doing this well, it's not just a please give me money and then I'm never going to talk to you again. So bad philanthropy and bad fundraising, we talk all the time in the sector, is if we are treating you, the members of the donor public, like you're automatic teller machines. So that's bad fundraising. Good fundraising, as I say, is the asking, but it's also the thanking and the updating, which we call stewarding, and the getting to know you so that we can match a gift to who you are. That's all part of this process.
Excellent. Okay, so we bounced around a little bit. What types of fundraising are there, Jim?
Oh my God.
Is it because you just talked about sending letters, and
Yeah.
you said you're going to send me an email?
Right. I'm going to give you a phone call at dinner time. I'm going
You're
to
going to phone me at dinner?
I am going to phone you. If I knew what time your dinner was, then I'd time it for that.
I knew what time dinner was.
I would send those people to knock at your door. I've been responsible for those folks and the folks who stop you on the street. But there's more than just those reasonably impersonal ways, except for the folks who are actually asking at the street or on the street or at your door. We have events. A lot of
I forgot about events.
Yeah, a lot of is that to me or is that to him? He's the
That's
one
to him.
I'm the one who brought it up.
Yeah.
We have lotteries and raffles and gaming. We talk to
gaming.
people.
Gaming. I like gaming. Gaming.
Yes, yeah.
You mean this kind of gaming or a different kind of gaming?
Yes. Wasn't exactly what I'm thinking about.
Oh, yeah, what were you thinking of? What do you mean? What do you mean by gaming?
Lotteries, bingos, raffles, things like that. Long tradition of going to bingos and giving money to charities in our province.
Fun fact: back in the 80s, I did do some for a theater group. I used to go and help out with the bingos. This was back in the 80s, and that was back when you could smoke.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say that's back in the smoking days.
That was smoke in the backing days. And it did not matter the weather outside. It made zero difference. I had to come home. I had to take off all of my clothes outside on the back porch. And it didn't matter the day, the weather, the time, made zero difference. I had to take off all my clothes. A lot of times there was snow on the ground. There was snow on the ground, but that didn't matter.
Yep.
And then I had to go down into the shower right away because I just reeked. And my clothes just reeked. And they stayed outside, and eventually they would make it into a laundry at some point. But yes, it didn't matter the day or the night, because that back in the 80s you could smoke inside.
We share a similar memory, except mine is from the 90s, when there would be a smoking section and a non-smoking section. And people would there was not a lot of enthusiasm for going into the smoking section to sell the bingo cards.
It made a difference.
Right. Yeah. It's like, okay. All right. I can see that orange fog as I'm walking through the door. But yeah, coming home.
Like the non-smoking section at the back of the plane.
Yeah.
Like exactly. that was any, I want the non-smoking section at the back or the front of the plane, wherever I forget where it was now. It was so long ago.
So there's Owen. Owen's coming into
Hi, Owen.
Hey, Owen.
That was a plane. So one charity, we did 4 bingo shifts in a weekend. So 2 on a Friday and 2 on a Sunday.
Oh.
So I would get out of the car on Friday night, not go anywhere on Saturday, get back in on Sunday morning, and I still can we use the word reeked? Is your audience okay with the word reeked?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's YouTube. I marked it as not safe for children, so it's all good.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
so you can use any words you want. Yes.
Yeah. So I remember those days fondly, and I'm also glad that I haven't had to do them in a while.
Yeah.
So my good friend David Wilson just popped in. David's from the UK. You guys are from Canada. So any difference in fundraising? This is not on my questions. This was not on the pre-question. If you're looking for your sheet, Jim, this was not on the pre-questions that I sent out ahead of time. But any difference between fundraising?
I thought Anne was texting me saying, "You take this question, Jim."
No.
Either one. This is a free for all. Anybody can answer this one. So my friend David Wilson is in the UK. I want to say Liverpool, but I really don't know anywhere in the UK.
Oh, so well, I was a baby. I was a baby in Liverpool.
He's going to get mad at me because he only told me this last night, but I don't remember.
Okay. So I would say there's a couple of things in both countries, or all countries, because I think Pro Resin is in the US.
Yes.
Gifts in your will are definitely something that's available. It's a little bit of degree. I think we do a lot more charitable gaming in Canada. I used to actually work in California. I don't think it's nearly as common there. There's been a lot more controversy, or David might say controversy, in the UK, especially around fundraising appeals, donations by mail. The idea, Jeff, you were talking about the people coming up to you on the street. That idea actually originated in England. So no, thank you. And in fact, in the UK, they call it chugging, which is short for charity mugging. But, I think people are people. So I think a lot of this stuff for, Western, kind of Anglo-Saxon based countries, which Canada, Britain, and the US all are, there's a lot of things, that are similar. It just may be the mix of, what kinds of events, like golf tournaments, are big in Canada and the US. I don't know if they're big in the UK. Certainly galas used to be big. I don't know that they're going to come back in the same way. Like it can be a little bit country by country.
Like the Met Gala.
Like the Met Gala, which is technically a charitable event.
On the bucket list of attending one day, I will get to the Met Gala. Maybe when my YouTube channel gets as big as Marquis Brownlee.
You know what? Tickets like $30,000 for one person.
No, the YouTube people get them for free. Do you think Kim Kardashian is paying for her ticket?
Well, Kim Kardashian should be paying for her ticket, actually, because Kim can afford to pay for her ticket. But
I don't think she is.
Could I say to the Kim Kardashian comment, one, she didn't pay for her dress. She wasn't even wearing her own dress, so she could have, paid for her own ticket.
Okay.
And isn't Kim Kardashian one of those people we always want to donate to our own galas?
I guess. No, I thought we wanted the Mrs. Bezos. I thought she was the one who we all want.
Mackenzie
okay.
Scott.
That's her name. Thank you. I was
Yeah.
drawing a blank on as much as I could come up with ex Jeff Bezos' wife. Yes, her. Don't we want her to give all her money?
Well, we like her because she gives unrestricted gifts. So she allows what she does, which is, I would say, very smart, is she really researches the charity, gives the tires a good kick. And when she decides she trusts the charity, then she just gives to them and she decides that they're the experts, which honestly is, obviously I'm biased because I work for a charity, but I think that's a good way to go. It allows the charity to be more flexible. It allows them to try new things. And it lets you be more of a partner with the charity than saying, you can only do these narrow things with my gift.
I'm going off script again, just because I only just thought of it.
And because you're Jeff.
And because I'm Jeff. Is there...
You want me to send you a copy of the script? I've got it right here on my screen.
No, I have it open too.
Okay.
Is there a difference in fundraising? Only because David was popped in, we talked about England, but not by country, but by religion. So I believe, Anne, you work at a Jewish organization. I know the Muslims have the zakat, which, correct me where I'm wrong, somebody, I think they have to give 10% or a percentage of their income to charity as a charitable gift. I don't remember the percentage. So is there differences between religious in terms of charitable giving?
So I was the place where I got this is my fundraising shirt, which I'm proudly wearing right now. There was a conference of fundraisers a couple of weeks ago, and I was speaking actually with a Christian minister and a Muslim imam. We're all professional fundraisers. So I will say,
you guys all walked into a bar? No, sorry.
We didn't walk into a bar because Muslims don't drink. But other than that, we did. But we were in Las Vegas, so close enough.
Well, just because you go into a bar doesn't mean you have to have something alcoholic.
That fair, absolutely fair.
So and I did know you guys were in Vegas. So yes,
you did know we were in Vegas. So in the Jewish tradition, I mentioned this earlier, it's two things. The number 18 means life in Hebrew. So donations in multiples of 18 are very common in the Jewish tradition. And in our tradition, if someone dies, you do not send flowers, you only give money to charity. So that's a very, very strong Jewish cultural belief. And so when someone dies, at my place, we'll get $18, we'll get $36, or $180, $360, we'll get in multiples. I can't begin to explain how Muslim philanthropy works. What I can say is, having heard Irshad, my colleague, speak many times on this topic, giving during the month of Ramadan is extremely important. And a lot of Muslims do all their philanthropic giving, or the vast majority of their philanthropic giving, during Ramadan. So if you happen to work for a charity and you're listening to this right now, bad news, Ramadan ended 2 weeks ago. Good news, you have 40 plus weeks to figure out how you're going to do this better next time. And, we live in a culturally Christian context. So I think the way we think of fundraising in North America tends to be, in English North America, tends to be kind of a Christian way of giving.
Excellent.
Can I pop in there?
Yeah.
No, Jim, you're
okay.
I
always ask that question, and sometime I'm hoping someone will say no, just to see what the reaction of the room is. For this as a former practicing member of a Christian church, the thing that struck me about going to church that I think about now is that for a lot of people, it's their first opportunity to donate.
Mm-hmm.
It's their first chance to think about money doing something more than just buying a good. You know, as a kid in the 70s, that was a big deal. The most important thing my mother sent me off to church with was a quarter for collection.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of us of a certain age became fundraisers once a year also by collecting change. And it was our first opportunity to be fundraisers. And I'm thinking now about the UNICEF box.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure how Halloween works in with Christian church, but there you go.
The pagan ritual?
Yes, exactly. So we go to church every weekend and give money, and then on Halloween we take it back to give to other folks. I guess that's the lesson.
I guess that's it. Yeah.
Although, true story, when I was a kid, we did go trick-or-treating for UNICEF, and
that's what we all did in the 70s.
Well, but did you get chased off of someone's yard with the band screaming after you, "Communist"?
Wow.
Wow. I grew up on the Hamilton Mountain. So I'm going to say no.
I was much older before someone called me a communist. I was past my UNICEF years.
Oh, were you? Okay. Yeah. I don't think I don't think I've ever been called. I've been called many things in my life. But communist, I don't think is one of them.
I would like to say, for the record, I'd be much more likely to call Jim a communist than to call you a communist.
Oh.
I mean, one of you studied Russian, so, you know.
Which is now coming in useful because of various, all those years of Russian, all that Russian learning, Jim, is now you're putting it to good. And a lot of people on my Facebook are now Russian experts.
Yes.
or at least Eastern European experts. Last year, I had a lot of people working as infectious disease specialists. Yes. They have now got new jobs, it appears. Again, small sample size, just looking at Facebook, but from what I can tell,
I see the same thing on Twitter, and of course, an awful lot of constitutional experts too over the past several months. I clearly misapplied myself at school not to learn so many subjects.
Apparently. For anyone who's just popped in, this is my new show, The Business of, and we're talking fundraising with international experts Anne and Jim. And if you have any questions on fundraising, no large or small, anything you were dying to know, throw it in the chat and we will ask them, and you can try to stump them. Question, Jim, explain your shirt.
My shirt. Oh, and I've got to stand up for this, and this is going to be interesting.
I know shirts are made to be worn and seen in person, not so much on camera.
Okay, so all right, let's see how this works. So it says, "Hello, my name is." Overhead. Did any of that come through, or did it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, because that's going to lead into my question. You guys are fundraisers.
Yeah.
How do you get paid?
Paid?
Yeah. Or you just do it all for free.
Since when? How do we get paid? We get our organizations pay us to raise much more money than we cost. Mm-hmm. That's my simplistic answer.
So explain the shirt now then.
Sure. Okay. So
which I made you wear. Just for the record, folks, I made him wear it. He didn't have it on. I made him go and put it on.
I was dressed respectably out of respect for your channel and your show. And you I said respect, Jim, or respect, Jeff. Now I'm Jim.
I'm Jim.
Yeah. Who's Jim now? I'm off script. I can't tell which one of us is Jim now.
I'm Spartacus.
There are an awful lot of folks who volunteer or whose volunteer roles are fundraisers. And in many organizations in Canada, and I'm willing to bet this is the same in the States. I'm less certain about saying this about the UK. But many of the folks who work at charities, many of our charities are completely volunteer staffed. Mm-hmm. And it takes a certain growth to get to a point where we are paid as fundraisers to raise money for folks. And you've got an unusual look on your face. Did I say something horrible?
No, I saw that Simpleton had a question. So when you were done, I was going to comment.
I was going to put Simpleton's question up, and then I was going to. So carry on, Jim.
Because that look scared me, and I'm not going to lie. I was like, oh my gosh, did I blow it that badly? Because you're the international expert. I'm just Southwestern Ontario expert. So when organizations get to a certain size and certain degree of complexity, or they're ready to take the next step in their growth, fundraisers get hired. Some organizations set themselves up from the beginning to fundraise, but that's not the case of a lot of smaller charities. So we're conscious as fundraisers of what we can do for an organization to bring in lots of support and long-lasting support and the relationships that keep that coming in. But we're also conscious that people are concerned about what's often referred to as overhead. And that includes not just the photocopier paper, but it includes my salary. And so for a period of time, especially early days for organizations like Charity Navigator and GuideStar in the States, the critical metric became one around overhead. How much is an organization spending on the administration, spending on fundraising? And it became less about impact. And so for as long as I've been in the profession, 25 years, which is similar to a sentence for murder in Canada, we've been talking about how to move the conversation past what we cost and what we bring to an organization.
Right.
And in my preparation, when I was reading the script earlier and making notes, an article online suggested that a fundraising or an organization with a fundraiser typically, or on average, raises about 375% more revenue than an organization without a paid fundraiser. I have no proof. I did no fact checking to find out if that's true, but I thought, heck, that's a statistic I want to tell Jeff. There's something out there that says this is what we do. And so there is a role for volunteers and for paid staff in any organization, because we rely on volunteers to do a lot of the things that we can't. The phone calls that they can make to people they know, the energy on an event from a volunteer is often astounding.
So I think that leads into Simpleton's question. What are your thoughts on sponsorship campaigns, like when people run 5Ks, or is, as in my case every year, I shave my head for kids with cancer and collect sponsors? So in fact, he's a fundraiser. He's a non-paid,
100%,
right?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely.
I think there's a few things. First of all, Simpleton, thank you for that, because like you might not every year want to shave your head, but you do it anyway because it's not right and fair that kids have cancer. I think it's like anything, it's events at their best, and whether it's a shave your head, whether it's a walk, a run, a bicycle, or whatever. One of the things that events at their best do is they give you something to do. And what I mean by it is that I think probably all of us have been touched by cancer, either personally, family, friends, and there often isn't a lot you can do. So the great thing about a walk or a run or a sponsorship is at least you can do something, and it's something that can hopefully help find a cure, find better treatment, help the hospital or an organization that's helping the person. So it's something tangible that you can do to support, which is really important and valuable. So good on you for doing that. I think it's awesome.
And we don't have to get into, I don't know anything about Simpleton's background or this, but there must be a personal connection. Must be a reason why he didn't just wake up one morning and decide he was going to shave his head. for kids cancer, there may be a personal connection, which is most likely why we always do things. The reason I have done certain events is because either I have a personal connection to it. So, but both my niece and nephew have Crohn's. I've done a lot of stuff for Crohn's events. Other times I just get asked by people to dress up as a turkey in a grocery store. So sometimes you just do that.
Yeah. I think, though, it's an interesting point because, Simpleton, when you're shaving your head for kids with cancer and you're probably directing people to a particular charity, at that moment, you're sort of passing the baton to people like the three of us. And then if we're doing our jobs properly, not only are we issuing a proper tax receipt for the person, we should also be thanking the person. But then if we're really doing what we should be doing, we should be sending them some kind of an email, even if it's a modest donation of, $10 or $20, hopefully we're sending them some kind of an email at some point that just says, here's some of the things that we've been able to accomplish over the last year, thanks to your support. Your support, amplified by the support of others, has allowed us to make a breakthrough in stem cells, or to have a family respite center in the hospital, and now it has lounger chairs so that people can sleep. Like to let the people that you've put your good name out there and said to people, I'm going to do this, and I'm also going to kind of vouch for this charity. And then if we're doing our jobs well, we're reinforcing that was a valuable thing for you to do, and that here's the impact. That's what happens when we do our jobs well. I think when the donor public gets mad is when we don't do our jobs well.
It'll be interesting as a follow-up to Simpleton. What happened after with the head shaving and the money raised? Did he hear from the charity? What was his interaction? It'd be interesting to see what his interaction is. And just to close the loop on our friend David Wilson, apparently he's from Durham, just north of Toronto.
The other Liverpool. Durham.
In North Carolina?
It's the first Durham.
Oh, right.
I'm going to guess at least it's closer to the first than either of the two you just mentioned.
Okay. Yes. And David is very posh sounding, very sophisticated sounding, because I have heard him on there. Okay. So you're talking to a guy, who's a gamer, and my friend Vet Cloud gaming's in his name. I met Crow Resin Gaming. I met Simpleton Gaming. Wait, hang on before I ask that question. So Simpleton said, I started doing it 7 years ago as a PTO parent when a kid in my daughter's school passed from cancer, and the family created an event, and I was asked to join because I have a lot of hair.
That's amazing. And if you think about that, how much that means to that family, right? Because that you're showing that you're helping remember their kid, and you're helping make sure that in the future, no other family will have to endure what that family had to endure. So that's like amazing.
And he's still doing it. He may have, he's still doing it. What did you say? 7 years later. Whereas, the daughters probably left that school now and may not even be friends with some of the kids. We're all parents. We know how all that rolls around. But the fact that he's still doing it, so good on Simpleton to keep up. And I could be wrong. Maybe he's still friends with the family. Maybe he's still, maybe they go at the same church or the same synagogue, or he sees them at the local, Winn-Dixie. I don't even know where Simpleton's from, so I probably should know these sort of things. Okay, so back to where I was originally.
Because Jim studied for this test, unlike me.
Which page of the script are we on now?
We are on question number 5.
Oh, okay.
Officially question number 5. So again, you're talking. These are all gamers. All these chatters, they're all gamers. They game with me, sometimes against me. What are your thoughts on? And I know, Jim, you've looked into this quite extensively. What are your thoughts on, charity gaming streams and charity gaming and things like that?
I love it. I have teenage kids, and they like to game. They're not in the big leagues like you. They don't have their own retro Friday night gaming show. You know, they don't have issues with water in the game, so that's cool. But part of what Anne and I and you do too is we find people where they are and connect what they're doing to the organization that we're working for, and so there are tons of people who are gaming, who are doing charity streams with Minecraft and Fortnite. It's 20 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, we would have been talking about mass events like walks, gee, I'm trying to think of something else where we get a lot of people, where we get 1,000 people together and they'd be doing something together. But the charity gaming streams are not that different from that mass event where folks can join in and do as little or as much as they want to. And then they're seeking support from others. They're sharing the people they know with the charity to say, I believe in this charity and what they're doing. Will you help me help those people who are going to be served by that charity? So it's not, I don't think it's any different from any other thon. That's THON. That we might have done as kids, or every generation does as kids, and it just so happens that now we can do it from the comfort of home.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we can rent out a theater, a movie theater, and do it on the big screen. So there are lots of ways to get that mass involvement.
Putting
on shoes.
My longtime friend Aaron, also known as Vet Cloud Gaming, I've done charity gaming streams with Extra Life, which I think is connected through the Children's Miracle Network, I believe, right? Somebody fact check me on that, but I think that's so it's tied with all the children. But he's done a 24-hour charity stream in which I've raised money for a children's hospital that my son was at. So there you go. Yeah. So there you go.
As a gamer, Jeff, have you done charity gaming streams?
I have not done my own. I have participated and been involved with others. My friend Lee in the UK did a 24-hour stream. Was that last year, Aaron? I think he did that, and I jumped into some of his gaming and that. I've never done my own yet. But I have looked into it. I have talked with many people about, using whether it's TikTok or what the right platform is or the right thing for it. Just want to close the loop on. So I'm back to Simpleton. Once we collect the money, it goes to an organization I thoroughly support that provides quality of life changes for kids in a long-term hospital stays. That includes bringing video games to their rooms. So
that's awesome. And, I just want to note, Flag, Crow Resin, I think's question leads to a point I want to make that connects to this. So, I've known Jeff for a long time, Crow. I heartily encourage you to spoil his script because, it's my dream to ruin Jeff's night. So I think that there's a couple.
He's got to follow up. Just again, it leads back to Jim's question. So for example, I know some big charities where most of the money goes to Jim, as Jim shirt jokes, rather than to the people that can use it.
So I think there's a lot of pieces to this that I think there's it depends. And so I'll use some examples. So for example, Heart and Stroke, which is the Canadian version of the American Heart Association. And I'm so sorry, David, I don't know what the British version is, but you can guess. It's like, heart attacks and strokes. And they were really criticized in the news because they had a lot of money set aside in an endowment fund. And they had big criticism in the newspaper. And they went back and said, hey, look, we do medical science research, and medical science research takes years. And so when we give grants to researchers, we give them 3-year grants, but we hang on to the money because they have to do certain things each year. And once they complete a certain amount in year 1 and they do their report, then we release the next year's grant. So I think you have to be careful when you're looking at charity. When you're looking at charities, I think you have to be careful at looking at where the money goes, right? Because in that case, the money's going to researchers. It's not going to people with heart disease, but hopefully it's coming up with solutions for heart disease. The other thing I will say that's very true in Canada, and I could go on and on about this forever, so Jim and Jeff know to shut me up, is in Canada, we don't have, you can do things correctly in terms of accounting, but different charities do accounting in different ways. So it's all legitimate. It's all above board. But what slot things go into can be different charity by charity. There's not like a set of accounting standards that says that money, I used that example at the beginning, the $20 that came from the garage sale, there's no set standard. That's just revenue. And what your organization calls revenue may be which revenue line they put it in might vary from charity to charity. So I think you have to think about that. The other thing I will note, and then I promise I will stop talking, but the other thing I think that's really important is you also, I would say, want some oversight. So you actually want some people like us on the other end to make sure that people are legitimate. Because what's the other side of the coin? The other side of the coin is if you want 100% of the money to go directly to the people who need the money, that is the model of GoFundMe. That's the model of crowdfunding, right? But the challenge is, as we've learned, is are there people on crowdfunding who are legit? And are there charity streams? Like my son is also a gamer. He streams on Twitch 3 times a week. There are certainly people who stream and it's like, help, I, can't make my rent and, or this, whatever. Here's the thing. Then you're taking a leap of faith that that person is legitimate. And you should do that or not, depending on how you feel comfortable. The difference, I will say, is generally in a charity, part of what you're paying for is a bit more quality assurance. You're paying to make sure that the books get audited, and so everything's above board. You're paying for people to actually do some evaluation to make sure that the programs, the services they're providing actually work. So that's an individual decision. Often like a middle road might be, if you really want the maximum amount to go to service users, is you might want to look at a more volunteer-based charity as opposed to a charity that has paid staff.
Uh-huh.
And there's always going to be bad apples, if I use rock and roll 100%. Quotes, bad apples. And that's all the media is going to focus on. The one bad, right? There could be 100 organizations. If one is, bad, that's the one that's going to get put in the paper. And then unfortunately, it makes everyone else.
Yeah.
Now, Simpleton makes a good point. I actually don't know where in the world Simpleton is from. If he's from US, Canada, I probably should, but I know, and I knew, so David also said he thought it was the British Heart Foundation, but he said he's resorted to looking up their tax filings to gain an understanding of their expenses. We were going to talk about some good resources later in a future question, because he doesn't trust one-liners.
But so, what I want to say about that as an example, that's where I want to say the kind of the yes and. Because I remember I was on a phone call with some arts organizations and I was kind of coaching them on their tax filings, not to do anything dishonest, but there was one charity and I looked at them and I was like, why is your administrative overhead like 78%? Like, why is it overhead? And they're like, well, we hire actors and we hire sound technicians and we hire light technicians. And I'm like, dude, that is not overhead. You're a theater company. Theater companies hire actors. Okay. So I think one of the challenges when you look at people's tax returns, as long as they report revenue, and expense, they may not be sophisticated about which place they put those lines in. So you have to, I would say, especially with a smaller charity, you might have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt in terms of how that looks or how that's presented on their tax forms.
And you have to be careful, I think, and you guys correct me, when you're comparing two different organizations, because one might pay rent, the other one may have a building gifted to them. So they don't have to pay rent, and then they lease out half the building to a for-profit, and so then they get rental income. So,
or a really great example, Brad Offman, who's with Spire Philanthropy, but he wrote this really great article, and he said, like, what's the best charity? Who has the lowest overhead? And he used the example of a women's shelter. And so he's like, okay, so there's a women's shelter there in a downtown major metropolitan area. There is, there's lots of bus services. There's lots of taxi services. It's easy to walk to things. A woman flees her abusive spouse. It's a $15 taxi ride. And the way the shelter's set up, she can arrive there with a $15 taxi ride. They can pay for the taxi, done. Contrast that with a women's shelter that's in a rural community, and there's no bus service, or buses once an hour or whatever. A woman's in crisis. They may, a taxi to get there, maybe 3 hours, and there may not be a taxi service. So it's like when you compare two of the same, you need to be sure that all the same's all the same. And even things like, dogs eat more food than cats. So if you're comparing two animal shelters, the Annex Cat Rescue is probably cheaper than the Annex Dog Rescue. So, you have to also be careful that you're comparing same.
My cat eats quite a bit. So Simpleton said he's from New England. And we had a very bad stretch a few years ago with celebrity fundraising organization pays up to 90 cents a dollar to celebrities. They were outed by the media. I don't know. I don't have any information on that, but.
So I would be combative on that one. Sorry, Simpleton. I say that it depends. I think this gets back into the what's fundraising versus what's philanthropy. If they're running some kind of a gala, and at least here in Canada, and this is a difference maybe in tax law, in Canada, if you're running a gala and some super famous celebrities at the gala, I generally, I don't know, you've got Justin Bieber at your gala and you're charging, I don't know, $1,000 a ticket, and plus there's a meal, and plus there's that event would not qualify for a tax receipt, because you're getting kind of value for your dollar, so to speak. So that to me is a good fundraiser. And that's different from philanthropy, where you're writing a check for $1,000 and you don't get anything back from it other than a warm thank you and a tax receipt. So that would be my question about that charity thing. Was it fundraising, and in that realm, or was it more of the one-on-one philanthropy kind of thing?
Jim, any comment?
I do. We know in our little rectangles here that events are expensive. We know it's some of the most expensive ways to raise money for an organization, and yet most organizations like to have that mix where there's at least one event a year, and maybe there's some mailing, and maybe there's Jim's going door to door, but they play a role. And sometimes it's not just about the money that's raised. And I'm not going to be that person and say, but 1,000 people came and had a great time, because it depends on what the event is supposed to do. Is it supposed to raise that money, or is it supposed to bring people together, and how we measure those things, and how we measure success. And sometimes we have events that go off the rails. That we believe in our heart of hearts that things are going to go really well, and they don't, and people don't show up in the numbers we expect, and so that has an impact on the cost of the event, and one of the reasons why they're so darn expensive, and return what's the number we usually expect, 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, that's the Indiana Center on Philanthropy says it's pretty consistently 50 cents on the dollar. Interestingly, I will note, events are interesting and complicated because, and now I'm forgetting, I think it's Simpleton is also this amazing charity fundraiser. The most expensive events are things like golf tournaments and galas. Things like what you're doing, whether it's shaving your head or whether doing a walk or a bike race, those are more like in the 20 cents on the dollar realm.
Excellent. Excellent. Cool. So we are here, the business of fundraising, two leading experts, Anne and Jim. Throw your questions in the chat. There's been some great interaction, some great Jim's down here. So there you go. All right. Simpleton is back. It was philanthropy fundraisers where they were hiring celebrities for commercials and such, definitely not events. So there you go. And again, there's always going to be two sides to it. There's always three sides to every story, right? And again, we're not, we were not in New England, so we don't know exactly what happened there, and we could probably defend it if we had more information.
Well, I mean, but not always. I mean, we had we may be the only Canadians on this conversation. I was publicly and consistently, and I'm Googleable, being very critical of We Charity, which is a Canadian-based charity, which has U.S. offices where they're fundraising, who did mega events. And
you were on the news. You were on.
I was on the news.
You were all over the place chatting about that one particular charity.
Yeah, so it's definitely the case. Like, charities often deserve the problem is that it's like a Venn diagram. The charities who deserve being criticized and the charities who get criticized, it's not a perfect circle. You know what I mean? There are charities that get criticized that totally don't deserve it. And there are charities who deserve getting criticized who totally don't get criticized. And that's the thing as a person in the sector, is that, like I said, the example of the organization who was committing 3 years of funding to scientific researchers, in my mind, that was a totally legitimate. That was in keeping with their mission. That was in keeping with what their promise was to the people who were supporting them. But it didn't make as good a media story as, why do you have so much money that you're not spending?
So a couple questions that wasn't on the script, but I mentioned it to you offline. What about taking money, or would you take money, or what's the ethics around, and is a bit of an ethics nerd, around questionable money? And for example, back in the olden days, tobacco money. Or what about weed money? Weed in Canada is now legal. I know it's legal in many states in the US. And so there are now legal for-profit entities that want to, no different than, a telephone company, right? T-Mobile does sponsorships of events because they want to get their name out. So do, so do these weed companies.
So does Weed Mobile.
There you go. So does Weed Mobile.
So I think there's a few things. Generally, we're all going to say, if it's illegal, a charity should not take the money. Charity should. Well,
smoking is legal.
No. But I'm just saying, like, what there's some things we're going to completely agree on.
Yeah.
So, if cannabis is illegal in your jurisdiction, you should not be taking money from someone who raises money from cannabis. Like, end of conversation.
Sure. But Colorado, and correct me, you guys Americans, I know it's legal in Colorado. I don't know where else it's legal in the US.
Yeah. So to me, I think the question is, what's the mission of your organization, and does that fit within your mission, or is there a fit with your mission, or is there a conflict with your mission? And as an example, I used to work at an AIDS organization, and we used to take money from alcohol companies. Beer does not cause HIV. we did an event at an amusement park here called Canada's Wonderland. And one of the things Canada's Wonderland said, and I would say this is also a rule we can generally agree on, is if 50% or more of the people who are served, so in this case it was the organization, if 50% or more of the people served are children or youth, then you don't accept tobacco money, you don't accept alcohol money, you don't accept gambling money, because it's illegal. And it's like, it's not an appropriate sponsor, but that gets into what's the mission of the organization. Mm-hmm. I will note that I am not an Indigenous person. I've been to Indigenous events, and tobacco is used at an Indigenous. I've seen tobacco used as part of an Indigenous ceremony. I've seen it at powwows or at startings of conferences. Sure. So if I represent an Indigenous organization, if tobacco is part of my culture, then in my view, it's ethical for them to accept money from a tobacco company. I would say it is not ethical if you work for the American Lung Association to take money from a tobacco company, because there's a direct correlation between use of tobacco products and lung cancer. So I feel like that's where a line is.
Mm-hmm. This offline conversation you're talking about, that was for the cool kids, right? Is that the one I missed?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. All right. Right. I've worked at an organization. Well, now that I think about it, I worked at two organizations where there were prohibitions around certain donors. One made complete sense to me. The other not quite so much. So working for a respiratory health organization, we would not take money from companies that were involved in smoking, vaping. So I mean that makes perfect sense. Another organization, they had a prohibition about alcohol, accepting money from alcohol companies, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me. But these were the rules that we had. I think there's another part of it too, and that's when companies or industries become very aligned with certain types of charities. And people start to wonder, is the relationship too close? Working for an organization around hearing health, if they were receiving money from only one, we'll say hearing aid manufacturer, and we're often promoting their products, or interviewing spokespeople from that company, would people then start to believe that there was a relationship that should be disclosed? Was there a conflict of interest? Should money be sought from all hearing aid manufacturing companies? So I believe there's, to follow up Anne's comments, there are reasons to have prohibitions, and there are reasons to accept money or not accept it based on the people we serve. But then there is also the issue of are we too close to some companies, or too close to a single company in a sector?
Excellent.
Yeah. There's actually a lot of conversation in the health sector around
everything is bad. Everything is bad for you now.
No, I was going to say around donations from pharmaceutical companies. There's a lot of conversation, and exactly the point Jim's raising. Is it undue influence on the mission of the charity? Is it a business advantage? It's very complicated in that sector. And usually when people talk about this question, they talk about alcohol, they talk about cigarettes, they talk about gambling, but as I say, I think honestly, for most of us, are there things within our world where it's a conflict for other reasons?
So going off the board, I'm just going to mention Simpleton's comment here. He's starting a new charity called Adopt a Highway, cannabis fundraiser for cleaning streets. He says he's kidding, but that would be kind of cool. We do have Adopt a Highways here in Ontario. I don't know where else they have it. So hypothetical, Simpleton is raising millions of dollars for the Kids Cancer Organization. And they even put his name on a building. So there's the Simpleton Kids Cancer wing, or, whatever, right? The hospital where out here, there was the Colonel Sanders family wing as part of the hospital, which I always thought was kind of funny. I
actually know that story, but anyway, drive on.
There you go. You can tell that story after. So anyway, Simpleton has raised and donated millions for the Kids Cancer got his name wing, highly celebrated, big friends with Robert Kraft, Tom Brady loves him, etc. Then he gets arrested and is charged with something, fraud, something white collar. He didn't go out and stab somebody, but it's a white collar crime, embezzlement or something, all over the papers. He's going to jail, but his name is on that building. What do you do?
Well, I would say, first of all, that I don't think you're talking about Simpleton. I think you're talking about Simpleton's evil twin, Rimpleton. Because we've already determined not only is Simpleton raising money for charity and shaving his head, he's also now coming up. I feel like there actually is an idea in the highway thing. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I think there is.
Same here.
There's totally something there. But let's say Rimpleton, and we actually had that experience here with the a donation and Conrad. See, it's Rimpleton. Your evil. I don't know, doppelganger cousin or something.
Yes.
Evilton.
Oh, nice.
Where
nice.
Conrad Black, formerly known as Lord Black of Crossbow, was tried and convicted of some kind of fraudulent white collar crime activity, and ended up.
I think it was maybe a stock market or something.
I don't know. Anyway, but he ended up in jail, and one of his, it was very public, and I will tell you, it's really hard to Google because I think they did an awesome job of scrubbing Google. But Queen's University announced that they were going to return the donation, and they had a wing that was the Daniel Radler ring, who was Conrad Black's business associate, and they were going to take his name off of the wing, and they were going to return his donation, which is completely not legal, because once you've issued a charitable tax receipt, you can't give the money back. You can transfer the money to another charity, which is another point. But anyway, they ripped the name off. And I will notice that the local children's hospital here used to have the Conrad Black wing, and they've now renamed it the Black Family Wing. Oh. So if Jim and I are doing our jobs correctly, when we met with Rimpleton in the first place and talked to Rimpleton about naming the building after them, we put in something in the gift agreement we signed with Rimpleton that said, if Rimpleton does anything that reasonably could cause the good name of the charity to be held in disrepute, that we reserve the right as a charity to stop using Rimpleton's name. But gosh, I mean, there's a long history of this stuff. There was a thing, like, I'm so old, I'm even older than you and Jim. I remember when Jimmy Buffett was the patron saint of Save the Manatee, and then I think he got pulled over for drunk driving and a bunch of other things, and that was a big, like, anytime you associate anybody's name with your charity, there's some risk. So that's why you need to have a donor agreement that allows you to rip that name off.
Mm-hmm. There's also a long tradition of naming things after folks who give lots of money. I hear there are big, what do they call them? Pyramids that are, in a country, I think it's Egypt, that are big things that say, hey, this one gave a lot of money to have this built, and it took 3 centuries. But even something like Carnegie Hall or the Carnegie libraries throughout North America are built on people trying to rehabilitate what they might. This is the politest way I can put this. Rehabilitate.
We're on YouTube. There's no rules, so you can say anything you want here. We're on YouTube, so
yes,
we're not gonna get taken down. So
right.
unless I play Hotel California, we're not gonna get taken down.
I'm concerned about this Rimpleton because I feel like Rimpleton would come back and get me. So I want to be cautious. Yeah, Rimpleton, we're getting T-shirts. Rimpleton are us. There's a long tradition of trying to burnish. Well, all right. If I could say anything I want, polish a turd, and sometimes no one notices. And sometimes people do notice. And in the case of something being named after Jeffrey Epstein, that was egregious because someone could have done the Google search. So Anne is an expert in fundraising. She's also, I believe, the queen of Google searches, and someone could have easily found out about some of the stuff before accepting his money. And that's
but just to play, I don't know if Google was as big when that was all happening.
It for frickin' sure was.
Maybe Alta Vista, or maybe you had to go and ask Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves, yeah.
Maybe you had to ask Jeeves.
Yeah, go fetch.
Jeeves didn't know.
I don't know the whole timeline of that Epstein thing.
I actually Googled this when this came up recently.
Okay.
He made those donations to MIT in it's Jeff. Like you're getting off lightly, simpleton. Like really lightly. He made those donations to MIT in 2014, and his conviction for child whatever it was either 2006 or 2008. And I know I'm old, but I feel confident that we had Google in 2014. I feel really sure of that. And I completely agree. And I will even go so far to say, as a faithful DuckDuckGo user, I think even DuckDuckGo would have been able to find, because that is actually something I do with donors. I actually will type into Google Rimpleton, and then I'll type the word controversy, and I'll see what the search shows me. And then I'll type in Rimpleton, and I'll type the word scandal, and I'll see what the Google search shows me.
DuckDuckGo, February 29th, 2008.
Thank you. And that was
I had to Google that. I Googled.
And I have to just say, and that's DuckDuckGo. And the three of us have had a previous conversation about how you only use DuckDuckGo when you pretty much know what the answer is anyway. But
your boy Rimpleton or something said years ago, and of course he's a New England guy, so he's all up on the Red Sox, and our good friend Ephraim is a big Red Sox guy, so he probably wouldn't admit this even happened. But Big Pappy was caught in a strip club, and he was dropped by some charitable orgs he was part of, and that was just, I don't know, it being in a strip club.
So I think the question I would have is, and I don't know a lot about, as we jokingly call it, sports ball, although my late father of blessed memory was a huge Red Sox fan also. Yeah.
Your father from Ohio?
No, my father was born and raised in Boston. I was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts, my friend.
Oh.
So without knowing anything about Big Pappy, I would be interested to know, which were the charities. If he was a charity spokesperson for a children's charity, yeah, I probably am going to drop him. If he's a unlikely, but if he's a spokesperson for a women's charity, yeah, I'm probably going to drop him. But if it was an animal shelter, I might lie low for a while, but like part of it's what's the mission of your charity, and what's like did they do something that's against the mission of your charity, right? Like if I don't know enough about and I vaguely know that New England often has, because New England is so old, sometimes they have like laws that are really old that are not, because there's this law that goes back to 1697 or something. But if strip clubs are legal in Boston, I mean, not that I don't hate strip clubs personally, because I do, but if strip clubs are legal in Boston and he's a legal adult and he goes into a strip club and I'm running if I'm running a cat rescue, like, why do I care what a consenting adult does?
Yeah. So Simpleton is saying Puritan laws. So, we get back to sort of that religious sort of, I guess, aspect of it and
Christian religious.
And it didn't hurt David Ortiz because this year he was unanimously elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. So it didn't really hurt him that way. It's not like Pete Rose that bet on gambling and,
Wait a minute. I hear he says he didn't do that.
Yeah, that's what he says.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pete Rose, he played for an Ohio team.
He played for the Cincinnati Reds, which, believe me, I had to hear about my entire childhood. My brother was a huge Cincinnati Reds fan. I'm still scarred, as you can tell.
There you go. Yes. He was not in the Hall of Fame because he bet on baseball.
But he says he didn't. That should be enough. I'm sorry.
It's true. Gambling is gambling.
Is that charity gaming? That's charity gaming, right?
I guess so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, there we go.
The Baseball Hall of Fame is a nonprofit, right? So that's charity gaming.
Do you know who's a nonprofit?
The NFL.
The NFL.
Mm-hmm.
They're a 501 E or whatever. Because C3 is charitable, right. Fundraising and type. They're I don't know. They're another letter number.
It would be great to get a charitable tax receipt from the NFL. I would love that. I would frame that. I wouldn't declare it on my taxes. Of course, I live in Canada, where the filing of tax receipts and tax credits are a little different.
Yes, Simpleton is agreeing with me. It was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and good friends of A-Rod, a Yankee, might I add, and they also do baseball commentating together. Anyways, we're digressing. What were we talking about? Yes.
The whole point was to digress.
We've gone a lot longer than I thought, but this was good. Okay, so what are some good? We're gonna wrap this up shortly. If anyone else in the chat has any good questions, Simpleton, great questions. Crow with a good question. Aaron jumping in with a good valid point. David Wilson is just being, David Wilson.
Well, he's being charming, and he's enabling us on the Rimpleton story.
Yes,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yes.
We're going to read about this in the paper tomorrow. Rimpleton at large.
That's right.
There you go. What are some good resources for Simpleton to make sure that the money he's going to donate is going to one of the good ones? Realizing that you can stick to the big names. You've always got your our friend Rich Eisen does a lot for St. Jude's. You've got all your big ones. Your American Red Crosses. Your big huge ones. But
I'm surprised to hear you mention the American Red Cross when you're talking about places to look or places for oversight on charities
and on overhead.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what you mean by that, but sure.
But there we are. That's an unscripted moment, right? I just want
that is.
Okay, all right.
We were told to be unscripted.
Okay, all right. So next time, no script. Is that what you're saying? We're just going to make this stuff up as we go. There in the States, there are a couple of big, third party. Do I call them watchdogs? I'm a little leery of saying that, but monitors. We'll call them monitors. GuideStar and Charity Navigator. and as we mentioned earlier in the stream, they very early on latched onto overhead, but they've moved to talk about impact more and more and find better metrics to suggest charities. The American Better Business Bureau also monitors charities. I'm a fan of checking, and I do this a lot. I'm a fan of checking charity tax returns, 990s in the States, the T3010s in Canada, and then also finding out what the charity says it did in their annual reports. And often the charities themselves are the best source of information about what they're doing, because they're living the mission. They're reacting and responding to some pressing community need. And they're telling people what they've done with the money. They are also, if they're issuing a receipt in Canada, they're going to be audited. So their audit often generally no. Their audit is often available. Sometimes it's not on the website, and this would be one of the reasons to dig a little deeper if it's not available on the website. But you can call them, email them. I guess some still have faxes, and ask for a copy of their latest financial statements.
Oh, and they'll give you that. You could just call them up and say, "Ann, I want to."
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
excellent.
And I would email one off in about 30 seconds. Anne is better at this, so she's going to get it down to 24, 25 seconds tops. But in an earlier comment Anne made about tax returns and about how some charities don't account for money in the same way, although everything is legal and everything is A-OK. Sometimes T3010s and annual reports seem to conflict.
I'll be right back. The cat is complaining. So just keep talking, Jim.
I think it was about David Ortiz repping that cat shelter.
Cat is clearly a Yankees fan.
Right, I guess.
Clearly a Yankees fan and upset when we mentioned the Red Sox and David and Big Pappy.
Or a hockey fan. I mean, it could be that simple. So there's there are a lot of places to look that are close at hand, and of course, any Google search is going to reveal those that are truly horrible. In Canada, we're blessed to have Mark Bloomberg, who writes quite extensively on Canadian charities. And he will often, or not often, he monthly provides a newsletter that includes a link to deregistered charities. That's like the National Enquirer for me. It's like, oh, I gotta flip through that. And in the UK, there's the Charity Commission. Now, the Charity Commission, there is a lot of criticism, a lot of controversy about the work they do, but they help to set some standards that make it easy for folks to find out what charities are up to. And I say that specifically because David has been keeping the Rumpelstiltskin. Oh wait, that's not it. Rimpleton.
Stick with the program.
And David Wilson is relatively new to our gaming community. He's just turned 22 and is often gaming with us in the Eastern through Pacific time zones. So I'm not really sure when he sleeps.
No, because it's like 3 a.m. right now.
Now, full disclosure, my show last Monday, he got a little too excited and woke up his partner. And she was not real happy about that. So he was a little more absent the rest of the week while she was around. She's now back at school, and so now he's back yelling and screaming at certain doctors. To David's point, this is why I started this show, is to talk about the business side of things, because we've all seen charity streams and we've all done, but nobody knows this side of it. And I'm going to be covering off other topics that mostly they interest me, but it's just understanding, I'm going to have a guy. So next week's show, just a subtle plug for next week, I'm going to have a guy talking about sports and players and the tax that they pay or don't pay necessarily, and what a jock tax is and how that kind of works. I found an expert in the US who's an expert on that. I'm negotiating with someone to talk about, contracts. I'm going to talk in the future episodes about cryptocurrency and why I'm going to buy an NFT when I could just print the JPEG out. Why do I want an NFT of Ann's shirt or Jim's shirt when I could just print a PDF out and stick it on my wall, or a JPEG? So I have to understand that, etc. And then David Wilson said she was not real happy. And Rimpleton says he's 22 and only needs 4 hours to.
Jeff,
No, it's
clearly for the record, because we don't want Simpleton to have any bad
Juju.
Yeah.
Any bad stuff. I think we're going to go with stuff.
Okay, all right.
Rimpleton is Simpleton's evil cousin.
Right. So,
But
he's commenting that David is only 22 and only needs 4 hours of sleep, as we probably all did way back, if we can remember when we were 22. I cannot.
I think Simpleton is being a little conservative. I think at 22, I'm pretty sure I only needed 15 minutes sleep.
Didn't we all go out? Didn't we all go out at night on Thursday nights to whatever, and then just roll into work at 8 o'clock the next morning?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, because you only had to make it one more day of work. So, you really only had to just somehow survive Friday, and you were fine.
Yeah. And apparently, Rimpleton is shady.
We knew that.
I have a question for Simpleton.
Okay. Yeah.
Simpleton, that's a fetching hat in your avatar. What kind of hat is it? And maybe there are other hat experts around, but is that?
Isn't that just a fedora?
It's a chapeau, I think is what you're trying to say.
Oh, you're showing off your French lessons now.
Well,
Wouldn't that be la hat?
One of the kids.
He says it's a fedora.
Okay, one of the kids has has recently fallen in love with wearing hats, and so this looks like it could be a summer hat option.
For you? Or him?
No, for him.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
There is probably
there is too much thinning happening up top, which is why I'm actually growing it longer down here, so I can fold it forward. For those that have commented that my hair looks a little longer, it's because I do want to. So I have to. A baseball hat is a must for me in the summers, on these summer days. Otherwise,
I'm looking around for sunscreen. I don't have any here with me, Jeff. I'd pass it to you.
Oh, I have some in the car. I have some in my car all the time. David says
spray sunscreen.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the hair.
No. Well, you could get food dye and make black sunscreen spray.
Remember the hairspray, that hair stuff from the 80s. David Wilson would not understand. He would have to Google those old hairspray commercials.
I had a donor in my current role. There's one guy who was doing the hairspray, the dark hair. Like, I think he dyed his hair, and then he also did the whatever that is.
The comb over? Was it the comb over?
No, spray paint.
Oh, yeah.
To make his scalp black so that. Yeah, no.
Did it leak like Rudy Giuliani did?
No, thankfully not.
Was that just product in his hair that caused him to leak?
Oh, really? Please don't leave me with that image.
David, thank you for popping in and contributing, and Simpleton, thank you for the great questions. Aaron as well for popping in, and any final comments, Jim or Ann or chat. Anybody else in the chat? I think my boy Crow has left, but that's okay. He threw a couple of points in there as well. So he says, to be specific, it's a straw hat fedora, very much a summer hat.
Perfect.
I guess it gets hot in New England. Even though there's a lot of water, I think it still gets fairly warm there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we would know living next to a big lake that it gets hot here.
It's not just big; it's great.
Yeah. Well, I'd say some days it's just pretty good, if you don't mind.
It's pretty great to me.
Well,
more than adequate.
Lake Baikal is deeper than any of them, so I'm saying that's how you really measure great in a lake.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you
All right.
touch the Earth's core when you get to the bottom of the lake? That's a great lake.
I guess I have been down deep in the lake, but not to the core. Only 30 meters as my scuba instructor allowed at the time. Okay, so last before we end, this went an hour over than I thought it was, but it was good times. And as David said, making some great points and having some fun. It helps. Next week should be fun because I don't know the fellow at all. I've only had one phone conversation with him, so it might be a little different than this one, where these guys I've known for like 25 and 30 years, and then some. Simpleton says we've got 4 solid seasons, very cold winter, very hot summer, and everything in. Wouldn't that be 3?
No, because they have a great New England. Like if you're
well, very cold winter, very hot, and everything else. That's 3.
Here.
No.
Crow's still here.
You've got New England. Come on, there's the Barry Manilow song. Time in New England took me away. Were you not paying attention in the Barry Manilow years, Jeff?
I was not. I tried to block those years. And Crow makes a good point, putting the fun in fundraising. Jim does that every day.
Sometimes I put the FU in fundraising. But of all the things we could have talked about tonight, I did not see Barry Manilow making an appearance.
That was not in the notes.
No,
that was not on your bingo card.
Was not.
Is this where I disclosed that I had 2 Barry Manilow 8-tracks for my portable 8-track player as a teenager that weighed 93 pounds?
Nice.
Should I have kept that to myself? Should that have been my inside voice?
I might have left that on my inside voice.
Okay.
No. Big fan of 8-tracks.
All right. I also had Queen of Nazareth. So does that balance it out?
Yes, that was good.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm gonna, because Jeff's trying to get us to stop, and we're not stopping.
No,
so
you guys can keep going all night. YouTube will shut us off after 12 hours. So
okay, well there you go.
We've discovered during other charity streams that YouTube does have a live limit of 12 hours. So if you're going to do a 24-hour stream, you actually have to either break it up, stop after 8 or 10, and then do a second one, or 12 or a third one. I think
whatever. If you do a 24-hour stream, you're going to want to stop after 12. But as opposed to breaking at 8 or 10, unless you want to break 3 times. But
I think a lot of people who do 24-hour then go, my next one will be 12. I don't know how many people continually do 24-hour streams, but.
So the thing I would leave on is one of the great ways to think about participating in charity as a donor is to think about it the way you might think about your money otherwise. And so if you're thinking about your money, you might say, okay, I'm going to give away, I don't know, $100. And I want to make a big difference, which, to be honest with you, if you want to make a big difference, I'm biased, you're going to want to give to a smaller charity. So it's going to be a little bit more risky. So just like in business, risk equals return, but risk also equals failure. So you might say to yourself, you know what, I want to see a big difference, but I'm prepared to lose that money. Like I'll still get my tax receipt, but it maybe won't have the impact, or I won't do what it needs to do. But if it succeeds, it'll be great. So maybe I'll put, 20 or 30 of my $100 or my 100 quid towards, smaller charities that are less well established, maybe aren't as clear. And then maybe the other 70%, just picking at random, like you'll pick your amounts. Maybe that's where you go with more the charity version of the blue chip charities. And that's going to be, British Heart. That's going to be, for us, Heart and Stroke, or American Heart Association, or, the bigger hospitals or the bigger universities. Like those are sort of the charity version of blue chip. But, just as you maybe don't put all your eggs in one basket in terms of your retirement savings or whatever, similarly in the charity sector, just give yourself a portfolio. And also, I think it is totally fair not just to look at impact, but look at how they treat you. And, if you have made a donation, or you've done a walkathon for them, or shaved your head for them, or made a donation to a friend's charity, and the only time you heard from them was your tax receipt, and then they've sent you 35 emails in the month of December, like, block them, and then you'll say, okay, well, I gave $20, I'm going to still give $100 next year, but the $20 I gave to them, I'm going to give to, a different charity. I'll give to a different cancer charity, say. So that's my suggestion.
Excellent.
And my thought has nothing to do with any of that serious stuff. I think an awful lot of us are fundraisers and don't think about it and don't acknowledge it. We don't realize, earlier you were talking about the chocolate almonds, and we're talking about the UNICEF boxes and things like that. And we don't know how other people fundraise. And I want to tell a little story. And if you don't cut me off, Jeff, I'll finish it, I promise. When my father passed away, the Legion branch in his hometown, tiny little town north of Toronto, made a big deal about his passing. They had invited the MP, the MPP, the mayor of the town, the Dominion Command president. It was a very big deal for them, and I had no idea why.
Now your dad had fought overseas.
Yeah. So
right?
yeah,
so he wasn't just some
war.
random guy.
No. I didn't know the connection though, but yeah, he had fought in World War II. My grandfather, his father, was in World War I, and farmers. And in this little farming community is the largest building in this farming community is the Legion. So the huge celebration, the place was packed. There was a piper, all sorts of stuff, a potluck, 3 different kinds of meatballs. It was amazing. And then the president of that Legion branch pointed me toward a sign, and it was how much the charter or the founders of that branch had raised. And in 1948, it cost $10,000 to get a Legion branch up and running. And my father, who had, demobilized in 45, he was a truck driver after the war, he raised $7,500 of it. I had no idea until we were at the Legion and it's a memorial service. And so there are people all around us who are constantly fundraising and constantly building the society that they want. And my father's dream in getting that Legion branch up and going was so that his father, my grandfather, had a place where he could go get a beer on Saturday afternoons. And some of the other veterans could go as well. So all around us, people are trying to make the world better. And Anne and Jeff and me, we're blessed by the opportunity to do this every day, to help people build the community, build the world they want to see. And it's an absolutely magical thing to be a part of.
And one of your goals is to jump out of an airplane like your father did.
Absolutely. I am hoping there are significantly fewer Germans shooting when I jump out of the plane. I think
fewer, but not zero.
Well, I would hope zero, but
if we found Fritz, we could have him down on the bottom firing paintballs at you or something. If
sure. That sounds like
because you said fewer, but you didn't say none.
Right. Again, no crystal ball. I'm wrong on a lot of trends in the future, so I want to manage the risk a little.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So there may be a future video of the 3 of us at one point jumping out of a plane. Probably not together, but
paintball at us. Or laser tag. There's that.
I feel like Rimpleton would be the guy firing the
right
whatever at you, Jim.
right? I think we've just come up with a great fundraiser.
Simpleton was right there with you.
Yes,
Simpleton,
Yes, Simpleton is
the good member of the family.
Yes,
That's right. Yes,
Yeah,
the good cousin.
The good cousin of all the tons. He is the Puttletons.
Of the tons, stick with the simple.
Yeah, that's
Avoid the rimple.
Exactly. So yes, so there
How are
could
we
be a
going to
video.
explain the rimple tomorrow when we go into work? Someone's going to ask.
Oh my gosh, paint. Oh, between paintfall and highway,
yes,
like you have no idea. Like truly, you guys have no idea that there is every possibility a year from now, one or both of us will have come up with something using that, and we will be sure to credit you. And invite you for the very small fee of X to be able to participate.
And we'll stream it. We could maybe stream it live on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook.
Maybe a 5-second delay if we're doing parachuting.
Like they do with David Blaine and the wise walking across the tightrope, whose name is escaping me. Whatever those guys are called.
The Walendas.
That's it. Yes. They always had a delay. And they made him wear a safety wire too, even though he was against it. But for TV, they did not want him falling. Although that would make good TV.
It would make great TV. But imagine the sponsors if something does happen.
Well, see, that's the difference between YouTube and network TV. See, YouTube, they wouldn't care and they could do anything. But network television, they've got to.
Or Twitch. You can evidently literally do anything on Twitch.
You literally can. Yes.
There we go. Charity stream a year from now, jumping out of planes, laser tag on Twitch.
You're not allowed to
sponsor us.
You're not allowed to shoot lasers at objects in the air, according to the according to Transport Canada.
All right.
So, but I guess if we're just coming down and the helicopter has left the vicinity, and it's not over another flight path, then
Rimpleton is notoriously untrustworthy.
Right. All that white collar crime that made us pull his name off the building. He's not going to be concerned about
rules,
air safety,
and the Transport Canada, since he's from the States. Yeah.
What National Transport something transportation something whatever NTSB. That's it. National Transportation Safety Board. Yeah, I didn't have to Google that. That's up here for some reason.
And the FAA.
Yeah, it's up there with all the Russian, Jim.
Yeah.
You communist.
The Russian stuff has been coming out in full force with Jim over the last few months because he's a go-to expert now in Russian.
I would not say full force. I do want to get some sleep during the day. Oh, night.
If your son's into hats,
yes.
Maybe one of the, I don't know, what are those Russian hats called that they wear? Is that only a winter thing?
The shapka, the sheepskin shapka.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. So water balloons.
Wow.
I don't think of Russians as being like the kings and queens of summer hat wear.
Mm-mm.
That's because it's never summer in Russia. Is it ever warm in Siberia? I don't. I folks, I apologize. I'm stereotyping Russians.
No.
I am fully stereotyping Russians, just like other people stereotype us, saying we all live in igloos.
Right. And we drive our igloos to work. Think of the territories. Think of Northern Ontario, and that's a good chunk of what. Go too far south, then it's miserably hot.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So but water balloons, as you're landing, your kids could throw water balloons at you as you're landing.
That doesn't sound nearly as much fun as dropping them from the plane, though.
Yeah, although I imagine that could be fatal.
Yeah.
See, and that's Rimpleton.
Oh, see, I didn't know Wimbledon was in the helicopter with us. I thought he'd be on the, but now he's in there dropping the water balloon.
Yes,
Wimbledon was going to be on the ground shooting lasers, and then Jeff, with his, Transport Canada says it's illegal thing. So now, we had to.
That's all my drone training. All the drone training I had to be able to fly my drone.
Yeah, but now we have to have Rimpleton in the helicopter with us, and no one ever wants to be in the same place with Rimpleton. But thanks to you, Jeff, now we're stuck with Rimpleton.
I'm not so sure we're stuck with Rimpleton, because if we want to think about flight, I believe there's another cousin we should turn to. Blimpleton.
Oh, the humanity.
Yeah.
I don't know where Simpleton is today, but last night during my stream, he was at a kids concert listening to us, talking and joking and whatever, and trying not to laugh during his kids' school performance that he was at. I don't know where he is tonight, but
kids' school performance is just an endurance competition, and you're there to listen to one kid do maybe two songs, but you're 2 songs max per kid, and then you have to endure everybody else's kid who sings flat, doesn't know the words, can't actually play their instrument. Fair.
And
when they're not licensed,
and we never had YouTube and other things we could stick in our ears to listen to, maybe a little old transistor radio so we could catch a ball game in my case, and opera in your cases. I don't know what you guys would listen to back in the 70s, but little transistor radios or something, but not that they were very little.
Couldn't it be 2 transistor radios, baseball game in one ear, Saturday afternoon at the opera in the other?
I mean, possibly. Yeah. But who could afford 2 transistor radios back in the day, Jim? I was not that rich.
Okay.
Back in the 70s, we couldn't afford 2 transistor radios.
Fell off the backs of trucks in the old days. I think David is giving us a hint of what we should do.
I think so. Love this business idea, Jeff. Would love to see you back again discussing more of Rimpleton Addicts and maybe some more fundraising. Definitely. Good night, everyone. Good night, David. Fimpleton says, yes, I was there for her 37 seconds of violin, and once I waved, I was good to tune. That sounds like a Rimpleton move right there, doesn't it, Anne?
I think that is a completely legit, completely reasonable parenting move. And frankly, depending on what age of the violinist, you don't want to listen to more than 37 seconds. First of all, you've been listening to that for weeks at home. And then to listen to that violin with all the other not quite properly tuned violins, that's like a hate crime right there.
Mm-hmm.
And what you guys don't know, what makes it even funnier, is our good friend Anthony, who also streams and is 45 or 46 years old, is now taking violin lessons. His wife for Christmas or his birthday got him a violin, and he's now taking violin lessons at the ripe young age of 40 something.
So the business of music.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to get Justin for that. Or Brian Adams, or
that Justin. Okay.
Or maybe I get
Canada is a little overloaded on Justin.
Yes. Running Justins.
Maybe I could get David Foster.
Yes, sure.
He's another friend of the channel is a guy named Bruce Campbell. He also wrote the theme song for Retro Friday Night and my regular gaming show. I often call him Bruce Allen Campbell. And he's the only one that gets that joke, because he's another famous producer and guy up here. And Bruce also is from Canada as well. So I often call him that. But I am going to call it here. And Jim, thank you. I promised you we'd be like 20, 30 or 40 minutes. And here we are, almost 2 hours in.
Yeah, but we know, we've known you for a long time, so we knew you were a liar.
Okay.
I prefer the term embellisher. But I do want to talk to the scriptwriter next time before we go on. I'm no longer sure what page we're on.
And As we do in fundraising conferences, I have a gift only for Anne.
Is it a stick pen?
It is not a stick pen. I did not know you had a fetish for stick pens.
It's going to be. Is it going to be a Jeff Gignac shirt?
It is not. Better.
Perfect.
I still have this.
Oh my gosh.
And it's still in the bag. I still have it is in the official, what is this? It is in the official Hamilton Day 2021. Look at that. I got official Hamilton, Ontario swag for Anne. And fun fact, I live in Hamilton and so does Jim. Jim and I live about 20 minutes apart currently. And Anne has to come and visit. She's a whole 90 minutes away by public transportation.
Yeah, it's because public transportation isn't what it should be.
But I do have a present sitting right here for Anne.
Public transportation isn't what it should. Could fundraising help?
No.
No. Okay.
No, that's a public policy problem.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
You should run for elected office, Jim.
Yes.
And there's an election going on right now. What are the chances?
There you go. Well, there's a city one. You could run for city council here in May and October.
Yes.
So that would be more. You should start. I don't think you go state or provincial wide. You need to start local.
Yes.
You can't just dive right in you can't dive in head first.
Right. Start small, just like my ambitions.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So you guys hang on. I'm going to say goodbye and I'm going to end the stream. Say bye, everybody. Thanks, Simpleton, for being such a great whatever. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Contributor.
Cousin.
Cousin. Thanks, Crow.